This FileMaker training video is on the 30+ years history of FileMaker and what's in the future for FileMaker and FileMaker developers. It also just so happens to be kind of a historical marker for our Productive Computing YouTube channel, where we have hit 1,000 subscribers. So we are very thankful for that. We're very encouraged that so many of you are continuing to develop and hone your skills as we get into more advanced topics. And so kind of the future part of our channel is dedicated to you and some topics that you might want. So be sure to leave those in the comments of any video that you would love some help with or some ideas with. But this particular one is about FileMaker's history and future, and I think you will find it very interesting. Whether you are brand new to FileMaker or have decades of interaction with the entire platform, it is beneficial to just pause for a few minutes and get some perspective on the fascinating history of this software that has impacted so many people for over 30 years. We will be pointing out the highlights that are found on 3 different websites, and we'll put the links in the description. Of course, we'll have Wikipedia, and then there are a couple of others. The first thing to note is that, as with many great things, it started in the 80s with 4 people who originally worked at Wang Laboratories, and we have their names here. And these 4 gentlemen went to a computer conference, and they saw that there were a lot of companies that were focused on word processing products, and so they thought that would be too hard to break into that market, so they looked at database software. And their words here is just awful. DBase was one of them. The interface was a single dot at the left edge of the screen, and if you know what we're talking about, then that can show your age a little bit. So they really wanted to integrate this good user interface that they learned about there in with a database solution, and so they formed Neshoba Systems. That may sound like a strange name, but it's actually part of Massachusetts and Oklahoma. You'll see a couple of references here, and there's a fun little picture of the home. But what's very interesting is these initial design concepts. So we'll just pull those up. And if you didn't know that these came from the 80s, just see how these would sound as a design concept for today. Fields are variable length. You can enter as much data as you want. Every word in every field is indexed. You can add fields at any time or delete them. You can display your data in different layouts. The user interface would be menu driven, even though the mouse didn't come till later. It would have good performance on even very large databases, which, if you have seen one of our recent videos testing 350,000 records with a quick find adaptation, you'll want to check that out. Initially, it would support date, number, text, and calculation field types. When you see all of those, it just shows that in over 30 years, the main needs that we have in computer land are basically exactly the same. You could even say that this list right here is basically database in a nutshell. And that's actually what it was called. They even have a picture of the software sleeve, and it's fascinating to see the system requirements here. DOS version 2.0, at least 1 5.25 or 3.5 inch disk drive, and it's compatible with more than 35 popular printers. You can even see the bullet points there about automating business operations, combining data from related files. All of these are still true today. The only thing that might be a surprise is that Nutshell only had the N capitalized. But as we move forward in the history, we have the very first FileMaker, and there it is with the capital M, the sneaky little F inside this file folder system as the database and forms manager. So we have our software package here along with the requirements. And aside from the technical specifications, you could almost copy those bullet points word for word in what we are still trying to accomplish today in our solutions. It mentions that they had competed with Microsoft MS File and outsold them. I also thought it was interesting is that Nutshell and FileMaker never had a Y2K problem. They already had programmed it to be for 3,000 years, so they didn't have that issue that came up in the late 90s. The stats here show they were doing 6 million at the end of the 80s. That is not too shabby even at today's standards. But then there were some issues with potential buyouts, and they ended up going with Claris or Claris, depending on your accent. A history of FileMaker would not be complete if there wasn't at least one story about an end user experience, because every developer has at least one. And as frustrating as they can be sometimes, not only are they the ones that ultimately pay the bills, but they can also provide years of entertainment. One of my favorite memories involved a comment from an end user when getting their input on desired recommendations for their system. The screen they saw frequently was similar to this one, and so they referred to the software as Claris. Now, I never really learned if it was a term of endearment or a name of a relative or their best guess with an accent, or out of love for a recent popular movie, but it always brings a smile whenever I see the word now. So what is your favorite end user story? Please put that in the comments so that we can all benefit. Now back to the history. I also thought it was fascinating that in this transition here, they actually kept the exact same phone number. So if we do a search for that phone number here, it comes up with FileMaker. There it is. And that was simply spelling out 803 Claris or Claris. Part of the research for this video, I found this website where there's a special offer on FileMaker Pro 3.0, a 100 unit license, and they've got some pricing and discounts there, but there's that phone number again for Claris, and you can even visit their website, which brings us to a familiar home page. So now we'll move on to some things in Wikipedia that were very interesting, and looking at the history. Of course, it started out as being DOS based. But look at this. Leading Edge was not interested in newer versions, preferring to remain a DOS-only vendor. Definitely a dramatic fork in the road for Leading Edge and Nutshell and FileMaker. And after the purchase here in '92, we had the cross-platform of Mac and Windows. And up at that point, there were no real relational capabilities. It only did a few things, filter and sort and layout. Version 3.0 around 1995 was the relational and scripting features. By then, that was the only thing that was selling for Claris, and so they just changed the name to FileMaker. As you can see, that's what it is to this day. That takes us to version 4.0 in 1997, which added plug-in architecture. That was a serious game changer. And there's still a few articles about FileMaker 4.0 online. Take a look at some of these dialog boxes and configurations. It looks like you can even purchase a copy of FileMaker Pro 4.0 for Mac in the CD-ROM format in a new sealed box. You can still see the glare. One of the images I found for Claris FileMaker Pro 4.0 Look at that user interface with the Rolodex on the left side and your browse mode here, your different zoom capabilities, your menu. Those were days. So let's move on to 5.0, which was around September of 1999. And if we look at this particular listing here, this was a major upgrade with a new file format, FM5, that required conversion. Oh, and I forgot to mention version 4.0 introducing plug-in support. That was genius because here at PCI we have a lot of plug-ins, all from that one change many years ago, just adding additional functionality to the FileMaker platform. But with 5.0, we have the built-in ODBC driver, enhanced web publishing, table view. Can you imagine FileMaker without table view and conditional value lists? And take a look at this calculation dialog box from FileMaker Pro 5.5. But it looks like this is actually the field definition. So let's just compare apples to apples. There we have the current table choice here. We've got the different field names. We've got our operators all listed. We've got the option of name or type, a button for the storage options, the calculation result, repetitions, and do not evaluate. Pretty much the same exact thing. Amazing how similar and yet how different they are. FileMaker 5 has a special place in my heart because that was where I did the majority of my initial FileMaker learning. But next we'll go on to FileMaker 6.0. We have custom dialog boxes, constrain and extend found set. And also, if you notice back up here at 5.0, look at the requirements here, 16 megabytes of RAM and 17 to 30 megabytes of free space. Let's just look at the tech specs for FileMaker 18. As far as the hardware, we need 2 gigabyte is the minimum. Recommended is 4 gigabyte or more compared to 16 megabytes. 7.0 was by far one of the greater years. This was a great leap forward. We had another format change here to FP7. But now we had a relational structure up to 1 million tables in one file. Database capacity of 8 terabytes. Entity relationship diagrams. Can you imagine programming without that today? Calculation variables. And additional security parameters on scripts and buttons. Notice also it jumped up to 128 from a couple of years previous at only 16, but still a far cry from today's technical specifications. But look at this other part here about 7.0. They give the bullets here, but up in the notes section here, this is in 2004, we have that new file format. There's 8 terabytes, which previously could only hold 2 gigabytes. Individual fields could hold up to 4 gigabytes for container fields. But I wonder what that limit is now. If we look at validation and put maximum number of kilobytes and just add as many 9s as we can, there it is. We are still at 4. Huge leaps that year, as well as introducing the developer certification program, which all the way from 2004, if you look at what we have now, we actually have a certification preparation course from all those years ago when they started that. A lot of great things happening from version 7. So let's look at version 8.0. Again, some great enhancements: save as PDF, save in Excel, tab controls, script variables, auto completion for data entry, calendar dropdowns, and we jumped from 128 to 256. Version 8.5 offered a whole new world with the web viewer, and version 9 added the huge world of SQL. For those of you in the server world, server 9, look at the admin console here. My, how far we have come in such a short time. And before we get to 10, I thought it would be good just to reflect on this particular image to see how the layout is with all of this on the left. We still have these tools. We've got the Rolodex going here, the layout name, the different modes. So let's jump to FileMaker 10, where the status area is now horizontal and script triggering. Two big steps here with having all of this horizontal instead of vertical down this side, as well as now requiring a chart like this that we use in our certification course to figure out all of these script triggers and how this flow goes and starts and ends. All of that from one little change, not so little, in 2009. So let's jump to FileMaker 11 now, and we have charts and snapshot links, filtered portals, and recurring imports. And once again, we have jumped up to 0.5 gig of RAM. That is as far as this website goes, so we'll continue on here. And now we have the introduction of FileMaker Go. Another huge leap for the platform. In fact, they jumped from 1.2 all the way to 12 in just 1 year and actually made it free. Well, at the same time, we have this FMP 12 file format. And just in case you've never seen that, or perhaps you are interested in purchasing old versions or you have older versions, here's what it would take to convert from all the way back to FileMaker Pro 1. You would have several steps because of that file format, FMP 12. It's always kind of fun to look through some screenshots from when it first came out because it was such a huge deal. Oh, and there's our good friend at Database Pros, John Mark Osborne. You can see how this interface can be adapted. And you can see that it was such a huge thing to be able to say that your layouts were compatible with FileMaker Go. Moving on to FileMaker 13, we have WebDirect and we have barcode scanning, perform script on server, platform security, and the admin console we haven't looked at too recently. Here is the FileMaker Server 12 admin console screen, and then looking at 13, you can see it is quite a difference jumping from 12 to 13. And then even moving forward to 17, look at the difference between 13 and 17. And 18 looks essentially the same as 17. In FileMaker 14, we got the button bar and the script workspace, two huge favorites from those days. And in FileMaker Pro 15, one of our all-time favorites, unlimited undo in the script workspace. Then another major turning point with the introduction of cloud via Amazon Web Services. If you haven't heard of them, that's just everywhere now. I know it was only a few years ago, but can you imagine not having something like AWS in the computer world? Which of course brings us to 16 with curl and a lot more JSON, as well as the layout objects window. That was a big step. And at the time of this recording, FileMaker Pro 17 was just the previous version. We just transferred to 18. And so they made some condensing here. We have the add-on tables, which was a huge feature, and all of the new features of 18, which if you check out our YouTube channel, we have a whole playlist on FileMaker 18 features and FileMaker 17 features, so we won't have to cover those in this particular video. So now that you've seen some of the history, how about the future of FileMaker? They just released a report where FileMaker was ranked #1 in workplace innovation platforms, way out ahead of everyone else. It was also named a leader by an independent research firm, achieving the highest scores possible in training, support, community, marketplace, vision, strategy, partners, and a number of customers' criteria. At the moment, more than 50,000 companies from small and medium-sized businesses to Fortune Global 500 firms use the FileMaker platform. That is a lot of people influenced, all from just a couple of guys at their home with a vision. So what is your future with FileMaker? You basically have 3 options. You can do it yourself, you can have it done with you, or you can have it done for you. And at Productive Computing, we want to help you with all 3 options, whichever one you choose. If you are the do-it-yourself type, we have our YouTube channel with all kinds of tips and tricks in helping you hone your skills in FileMaker developing, as well as Productive Computing University with a whole bunch of courses on the more advanced side, moving to AWS and lots of things that just weren't possible many years ago. We also have plugins and solutions that can help you do it yourself with your own solutions. If done with you is more your style, then you may want to check out the FileMaker Maintenance Support Program to really help streamline your solutions, as well as including the training at Productive Computing University. And if you like it all done for you, then of course we have custom development. So whichever one you choose, we are here to support you in your career as a FileMaker developer. I hope you enjoyed this video as either a trip down memory lane or at least a glimpse into how far we have come in software development and just FileMaker in general. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for other videos to help your FileMaker development, and visit us at productivecomputinguniversity.com for more advanced specialized training.